Hi and welcome back to our This Is How We Grow personal growth group. I am Dr. Christina Hibbert, and today we're going to talk about lesson 4, which is on self-love. As you know, if you've been following the lessons of season 2, we have been working through the pyramid of self-worth, which is a pyramid that I created to help us understand how to feel our self-worth a little bit better. And we've discussed how feeling our self-worth is crucial to therefore going out into the world and discovering our life's mission and fulfilling our life's purpose. So this is sort of the top layer of those 3 layers. Remember, we started with self-awareness, so hopefully you're seeing a lot more of yourself. And then self-acceptance, which we said is definitely a lifelong process. All of these things are a lifelong process, but hopefully you're beginning to accept some things about yourself that maybe you didn't accept before, or at least you're aware that you're needing to accept them. And then that 3rd layer on top of this pyramid is self-love, and we're going to talk about that today. And once we have those 3 in place, that's when we really can start to feel and understand and embrace our true self-worth. And that can help us then to get into the next steps of understanding our life's mission and fulfilling that calling that we've been each given in this world. So, to start, I want us to talk, well, first I want to ask you a question. I want you to ask yourself a question. I want you to ask yourself, how am I doing with self-love? First of all, what does self-love mean to me? I want you to ask yourself that. What does self-love mean to me? I think it's a little bit different for each person, and you might have your own understanding of self-love. I'm going to explain what it means to me in a few minutes, and hopefully it'll be helpful. But I want you to first understand, what does that even mean to you? And more importantly, what does that look like for you? Because each one of us will love ourselves in a different way, so it will look a little differently, even if the same components are in place that we'll talk about. So think about that. What does self-love mean to you? What does it look like in your life? And finally, ask yourself, am I practicing self-love right now? Am I doing well with that? Or is that something I really, really need to improve? Or some of both? Okay, so kind of a self-assessment of self-love for you to get started. Now, as we talk about what self-love is, I think it's first important to discuss what self-love is not. And a lot of what we talk about today comes from my new book, Who Am I Without You? 52 Ways to Rebuild Self-Esteem After a Breakup, which is coming March 1st, 2015. If you'd like to check that out. But this comes straight from that book. And so, like I said before, even though the book's written for people going through a breakup or divorce, it's a great guide for anybody looking to build their self-esteem or rebuild it in a relationship that's not so great, out of a relationship that wasn't so great, or in a relationship that's great but you just need to rebuild some things in your life. That's what we're focusing on today. So, first of all, what self-love is not. Self-love is not selfishness, and that's where a lot of us get confused. We think that it's selfish to love ourselves. We think that if we're focusing on ourselves and doing nice things for ourselves, that means we're not caring about other people, and that's just not true. In fact, selfishness involves very little self-love, if you really think about it. Number two, self-love is not narcissism. A lot of people also think that when we focus on loving ourselves, that means we're narcissistic. We just care about ourselves. We're all about ourselves. We think that we're great or whatever. And the truth is that self-love is neither self-absorption nor self-obsession, and that's what narcissism is. Self-love is simply recognizing our true worth and then treating ourselves accordingly. So self-love is not narcissism. And number 3, self-love is not the opposite of other love. So some people think that if we're practicing self-love, that means we're not loving other people, that somehow they're opposites. But that's not true. In fact, self-love and other love they go hand in hand, and self-love is an important part of loving other people, because if you think about it, and as we discussed last year in our lessons on love, you really can't fully love someone else until you understand how to give and receive love for yourself, right? You don't have as much to offer, you don't have as much to share for others until you really learn how to love yourself. So it's not narcissistic, it's not the opposite of other love, it's not selfish. So what is self-love then? As I said previously, each one of us will have our own definition of what it means and looks like in our life. But in general, I've come up with 4 components to self-love. that I think apply to all of us and can help us to focus on some things we can do to actually practice that self-love. First is, well, let me just outline the 4 components, then we'll go through each one briefly. The 4 components of self-love are, number 1, self-care, number 2, self-compassion, number 3, self-kindness, and number 4, receiving love from other people. So we're going to go through each one of those. So first, self-care. We've talked about self-care at the beginning, I think in lesson 1 or 2 of this season. We talked about it last year. Self-care is essential to self-love. Self-care just means taking care of yourself. Taking care of your needs, taking care of your body, taking care of your mind, your spirit, all of these things. And I like to break this into 5 different categories so that you can focus in on how am I doing in each of these areas. So when we're looking at self-care, number 1, physically, how are you doing? Are you taking care of your body physically? If we listen to our body, it tells us what we need. So when we're feeling tired, our body's saying, slow down and rest. So that could be part of our self-care and our self-love. If we are feeling sick, our body's probably saying you need to treat that illness. You need to do something, change something so that you're not getting more sick, so that you can take care of your body, right? So this includes things like drinking enough water, obviously exercising regularly. I'm working on my 3rd book, which is on mental health and exercise, and I'm loving reading about it. It's just such a powerful, powerful tool. And we know that physically, when our bodies are strong physically and healthy physically, that helps us to be stronger and healthier emotionally, intellectually, socially, spiritually, right? So to me, physical health, this stuff we're talking about right now, is sort of the base layer for all the other components of our self-care. So also that includes getting enough rest or sleep, going to the doctor for regular checkups, taking care of illnesses as they arise, even taking vitamins and supplements, getting a massage if you're able to do that. Whatever it is that you need to do for your physical health, your physical stamina and energy, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about physical self-care. Next is emotional self-care, which is part of self-love, emotional self-love. This means that you need to feel supported. You need to feel like you have places that you can turn to when you have emotional needs, that those emotional needs are getting met. Also, that you are able to take care of your own emotional needs. When you feel depressed or anxious or down about something, are you able to stop and go, what's going on with me, and try to take care and nurture yourself like maybe a mother would to a child? Can you do that for yourself? Do you have other people who can help you do that? That's part of your emotional needs, and that can include things like psychotherapy when we need it, but also just talking or crying out things with someone who understands, a support person. That you need to have a strong support system. Maybe you need to set up your support system a little bit better. That could be part of your self-love. Writing things down like we're supposed to be doing in these exercises, working through your emotional needs and understanding them as we work on personal growth. Using your creativity as part of your emotional well-being. If you are feeling the need to be creative and express yourself through art, music, dance, writing, whatever, are you making time to do that, to process those emotions and understand things, and to also build yourself up creatively? Then we have the mental or intellectual self-love. Mental intellectual self-love is, yes, it involves learning, and you're doing that by taking these lessons. This is emotional self-love and definitely intellectual, mental self-love, because hopefully you learn a little something new every so often, or hopefully every time. But also you can do other things, like just trying something new, doing puzzles or games that keep your brain active, engaging in new activities or activities that you enjoy that make you think. Discussing topics that are of interest to you, having good conversation with people, and just also creating something. Creating something uses your brain, and it makes your brain kind of wake up, and it can be loving to your mental and intellectual self. Then we have social self-love, which can include things like going out to dinner with your friend, having a little get-together with friends, or just going with someone you love somewhere fun, or staying home for the evening and spending time together. Joining a club or a group, taking a class or activity, going to some activities where you can maybe meet some new people and make some new friends. That kind of thing can be very helpful for social self-love. Whatever it means for you to be socially healthy, like I have to push myself sometimes, even though I love people, I have to push myself to go and be socially involved in things. So I tell myself, you're going to love it if you go do this. So I make myself go do it, and I'm right, I do love it. So that's social self-love. And finally, we have spiritual self-love, which to me is one of the most important. We need to nurture our spirit. We need to tune in and make sure that we're recharging our spirit, connecting with God, Heavenly Father, the source, whatever you call God. We need to connect with that power and be able to embrace it. And you need to think about what helps you spiritually. You know, what works for one person might not work for another. I do go to church, and I do pray, and I study scriptures, and I meditate, and I ponder, and I write in my journal about spiritual things, and I do a spirit meditation to help me feel my spirit. But those are the things that work for me. What works for you? Obviously, being in nature can really help. That helps me too. Music can be very powerful. Anything that helps you connect spiritually and love your spiritual self and receive spiritual love too, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, that's all important. So these are all the ways that you can practice self-love by practicing self-care. Okay, so that's component number one. Number two, as I said, is self-compassion. Self-compassion to me means developing loving thoughts and feelings about yourself. It's really all about thinking about who you really are, you're good, you're not so good, and bringing compassion to those things. So if you think about someone you really love, like your child or your sibling or your parent or a friend, and you think about, you know, if you see them mess up or do something that they don't really like about themselves and they're being hard on themselves, you have compassion for them. You come and say, don't be so hard on yourself. You're really good at that. Or I really appreciate this about you. And you really try to have that compassion. And the same thing goes for doing that for yourselves. So when we have self-compassion, we choose to think and feel kindly toward ourselves, despite our mistakes and problems. And it's not about being perfect or saying we have no mistakes and that's how we're compassionate. It's about seeing the good, the bad, the ugly, the exceptional, and being able to bring compassion to ourselves. So it allows us to see that we're just like everybody else, and that's okay, and it's good. We're flawed, but we're perfectly flawed, and it's okay to have some compassion for ourselves, to give ourselves a break when we mess up, to say, oh, dang, I messed up. Oh, I hate that I messed up. But you know what? I'm going to nurture myself through this. I'm going to make myself feel loved through this instead of being so hard on myself and beating myself up. And this can be helped also by working on your thoughts, which we talked about before as a tool you can use. I have some videos on my website at drchristinahibbert.com, as well as some articles about thought management. There's part 1 and part 2 that teach you how to hear and stop and change your thoughts. And this can be really helpful for developing greater self-compassion, to be able to think and feel nice things about yourself. And if you do something like meditation in the morning, which I think you should try. I think it's a wonderful practice, and we're going to work more on that later. But if you do something like that, you can put compassionate thoughts and feelings into yourself. Kind of like affirmations, but like I've said about affirmations, you first have to believe that they're true. So first we're working on developing self-loving thoughts and feelings, and then you can kind of remind yourself that, you know what, I do love myself, and it is okay that I messed up, and I love myself despite my flaws, and even because of them, because they help me to grow. You know, those kinds of things, okay? So that's self-compassion, that's number 2. The third part of self-love is self-kindness. And to me, this means doing nice things for yourself. So self-compassion and self-kindness go hand in hand, but self-compassion means thinking and feeling nice things and developing that part of your body to be kind and loving toward yourself. Self-kindness means doing nice things for yourself. So think about, what would I do? Ask yourself, what would I do for somebody else to show them kindness? What kinds of things would I want to do for them? So for instance, like for my husband and my kids, I like to cook for them, or I will bake them some treats that they love, or I will spend time with them, or take them somewhere that they really want to go, or try to, do their job for them sometimes so that they don't have to do it. These are all things that I would want to do for myself, that I would want someone to do for me too. So guess what? I can do those kinds of things for myself too. I can treat myself to something that I enjoy. I can make myself a treat. I can let others do those things for me too and receive it, and that's self-kindness too. So think about, what kinds of things make you feel good when you're trying to be kind to other people, and then try to apply it to yourself. So as I write in my book, I say it may be as simple as telling yourself you look terrific when you look in the mirror, smiling and shaking it off when you make a mistake, or reminding yourself, I am a good person. A good question to ask is, what would I do to show kindness to someone else than to do that for yourself? So this could be letting yourself go for a hike, letting yourself take a nap, taking a bath, calling a friend to talk, whatever it might be. Be kind to yourself. That's the third part. The fourth part and final part of self-love is letting others love you. And sometimes, for many of us, this is the hardest part. I know that I had this experience back in graduate school where my professor, I went in for help on a test, and he was this kind of therapist called Gestalt therapy, and they're really in your face. And I know I've told this story before. I think I wrote about it in my book. This is how we grow. But they're really in your face and kind of just point out things that they see, and that's kind of well, not all of them are in your face, but he was. Anyway, he started saying to me, asking me questions about myself, and he finally said, "You're difficult to love." And I was like, "No, I'm not. I have a lot of people that love me." And he said, "No, I didn't say that people didn't love you. I said that you're difficult to love." And I was really offended by that. I thought, who is this guy? He doesn't even know me. But I ended up loving him. He was one of my favorite professors because he was right. I put up walls, and in college especially, and when I was younger, and I've gotten better at it, but I pushed people away before they can push me away. And, I could put up walls, and I could make it difficult for people to love me. And so my point in sharing this is that I have had to work on receiving love from other people too, and letting their love in, letting them love me throughout my life too. And I've gotten a lot better at it as I've gotten older, but I also find that in my times of distress, I tend to put those walls back up again because I'm used to being the responsible one, taking care of myself. I don't need anybody. And as I've gotten older, I've realized I really do need people. I need them a lot, and I want and need that love, and so I need to learn how to receive it. So I wrote about this, and I know I've quoted this before from This Is How We Grow, but I just love this concept, and it's been such an important thing that I've learned and applied in my life. I think it's so important in practicing self-love. We have to let other people love us. It's a cycle, right? So as I say, it's taken me a long time to understand this. This is page 378 and 379 from This Is How We Grow. It's taken me a long time to understand this. I believe in giving. I'm a helper by nature, and that's why I chose to become a mother and a psychologist. I believe in loving others in the way they need to be loved. But that requires receiving love too. Think about it this way. If someone I care deeply for gave me a gift wrapped beautifully and topped with an elegant bow, and I said, "Thank you so very much," and then hid it away on a shelf somewhere, did I really receive the gift? No. I was given a gift, but I did not receive it. The same goes for love. If I refuse love or insist, "No, I am the one doing the loving around here," then I'm refusing my loved one the opportunity to love too. That's not very loving. Yes, receiving love is as important as giving love. And yes, it is also the key to giving greater love. It's impossible to give, and still have anything left. Believe me, I know. I get myself into trouble over and over because I forget to slow down and receive a little more. It is a cycle after all. Give, receive, give, and receive. I thought of this once as I watched the ocean waves. They ebb and flow in a constant calming pattern. But what would happen if the waves never ebbed? They would flow and flow, creating floods and tsunamis, destroying everything in their path and eventually running dry. The cycle of the ocean is and must be complete. So must the cycle of loving. Receiving love completes and re-energizes the cycle of love. When I focus on receiving what is there for me, I am more full of love, more complete. Then I give even more. Now here's the part that really applies to us. This is kind of to wrap us up. Receiving love is also the key to self-love. So many of life's struggles come from failing to receive love from our spouses, children, family, friends, and especially from our higher power. Underlying these struggles is almost always the same core issue of failure to love oneself. When we block or ignore the love we are given, it can become a habit. Soon we've forgotten that innate ability we once had to just let love in. We forget how to love ourselves, how to be gentle and kind, and we forget how to let God love us, how to feel and acknowledge our innate worth and potential, which is what we're focusing on. Learning self-love is the gateway to truly loving others, for it's hard to give something we have not yet received. Receiving is what it's all about. That brings us full circle. In order to give love, we must receive love. As we receive love, we learn to love ourselves. And as we love ourselves, we have so much more to give. It is okay to receive love. In fact, I'd say there are plenty of times when it's actually better to receive than to give. I hope that you can focus, take these words, take these ideas, and focus on receiving love. Focus on self-care, self-compassion, self-kindness, and letting love from others in, letting others love you. These are the components of self-love, and as we work through this self-love, we will begin to really feel that self-worth, and we will begin to feel that, like I said, that love from your higher power, from God, and that is really where we get our true worth and potential, our true mission, our calling. It comes from, not from us, but from God. So I hope that you'll work on this, and some of the assignments, we talked about some of the things you can do. Focus on self-care in those different ways: physical, emotional, mental, intellectual, social, and spiritual. Ask, what do I need? And select one aspect of it and do it today. Then as you get that going, you can work on a different aspect and keep on building on it, okay? These are things you can do to keep building. You don't have to do it all at once. Practice self-compassion. Listen to what you say to yourself throughout the day. Go to my website and look at those thought management articles and videos and learn how to hear and stop and change your thoughts if you need to, okay? And then practice self-kindness. Ask, what can I do something kind for myself today? And then do it. It might be a nap, it might be time with your friends, it might be whatever it might be. Do it today. Be kind, and that will create those compassionate thoughts and feelings. It'll create more self-love. I hope you will join me back here for next time as we discuss lesson 5 of our personal growth group for season 2. And visit my website at drchristinahibbert.com for tools and articles that can help, including some of the ones I mentioned here today, for blog posts that might be beneficial. And until then, I hope that you are loving yourself well, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.